Suozzi. Jody. Louise, nice to see you. Radner? We had a lot of Radners in one coat. Yeah. Joe, there's like 8 kids in the family. Radner. Hi guys, how are you? I'm Suozzi. Oh, thank you for coming, Deborah. Hi, Alan, nice to see you. Hey, how you doing? Thank you so much. Hey guys, I'm not going to hold everybody up by saying we're going to nice to see you. Nice to see you. Sarah, nice to meet you. Ladies, I'm Suozzi. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys. Nice to see you. I'm going a little bit faster.
Where's your mother?
My mother's not. She's 92. She's
You're on TV. She looks good.
How you doing? Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Because we're in the VFW, let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, if that's okay. I've asked Al St. George, who's a good friend of mine, a great veteran, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Tom. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. I really appreciate it. This is really our 17th town hall meeting we've had during the course of the campaign. Oh, 18th town hall meeting. And most of the town hall meetings that we had before this were based upon geography, and now we're holding town hall meetings based upon issues. We had a town hall meeting earlier this week based upon jobs, economy, and taxes. And this one is focused solely on drugs, alcohol, and mental health. And there's a lot of reasons that we want to do this. Number one is that I talk to people in politics these days, and everybody's, just very discouraged. They're very, very, nothing gets done, nothing happens, and they're kind of ready to give up. Back in 2009 and 10, 11 and 12, people were very angry. Now they're kind of discouraged. Even my close friends say to me, why do you want to run for Congress? You can't get anything done anyway. And so what we're trying to do during this campaign is something that I hope we'll do even more effectively, if I'm fortunate enough to become a member of Congress, is to actually talk about issues that matter in people's lives, and to start talking about how to come up with solutions to address these issues. Too many people in politics today, it's all just about yelling and screaming at each other, with people pointing fingers at each other, playing games with each other. There's even a guy here who comes to every one of my meetings, Billy in the back there. Hello, Billy. He's a tracker for the Republicans. They videotape each of my meetings, see if they can catch me saying something. So it's really, it's so petty, but I mean, that's the world we live in, unfortunately. So we have to beat that back by talking about issues and things that affect real people's lives. And drugs, alcohol, and mental health are a very big issue. And I've invited 3 people here this evening that are experts in this area. I've got Jeff Reynolds, who's the executive director or the president. What's your title? President and CEO of the Family and Children Association. It's a very well-respected not-for-profit. He formerly served with LICAD, which is the Long Island Council Against Alcoholism and Drug Dependency. So he's very expert in this area. Hello, Lisa. Nice to see you. And I have not met her before, but Lisa Newland is here tonight. She's the director of social services, social work at Molloy College. She's a very expert in the area of social work and mental health. And then P.J. Clark is the former deputy chief of detectives of Nassau County, and actually headed up the narcotics part of the county police department. So I'm going to first go, and I'm going to try and lay out the issue broadly and some of the areas to look at. And I'm going to ask these experts to give their opinions. Then we're going to open it up to you to either make comments or ask questions. The bottom line is nobody's allowed to yell at each other. Nobody's allowed to fight with each other. Okay? Okay? We're just trying to talk to you. We're not going to solve any problems by ourselves just doing this tonight, but hopefully we'll educate some people. You can educate me a little bit. These people are all more expert at this than I am, and maybe some people have some great ideas in the room. But the idea is to talk about things and try and move the agenda forward a little bit, and it's something we want to build upon. Each of these people, I'm sure, have participated in panels and discussions, where they spend a lot more time at conferences. So the fact that they're taking the time to do this is a very big public service on their part. So I'm very grateful to them for taking the time to do this. So there's two, so let's see, it's now 7:44. Okay, I'm gonna give everybody a choice. We can either stay till 8:45, or 9 o'clock, or 9:30, okay? You're gonna get the vote on this, okay? Who wants to stay till 8:45, raise your hand. Okay, Billy the tractor wants to stay.
We might be terrible, you might be gone by.
9 o'clock, who wants to stay till 9 o'clock? Thinks that's reasonable? Okay, 9:30, who thinks 9:30? Okay, 9 o'clock is winning right now, so we're gonna shoot for around 9 o'clock, okay?
Hold them again in like 20 minutes.
All right, so the big picture, so for me, when I look at these issues of drugs, alcohol, and mental health, which I focused on a lot as an executive, and I'm very interested in, I think it's very important issues that we don't pay enough attention to in our country. So I want to look at the big picture of drugs, alcohol, and mental health, and then we're going to talk some of the more emergency type of things that are going on right now related to heroin for the most part. But you know, I'm going to just lay out the big picture first, okay? People don't talk about the fact that 75% of the people in jail in America have a drug, alcohol, or mental health problem. This is a very serious part of the dysfunction that we have in society. Drugs, alcohol, and mental health issues are diseases. We don't talk about that. A lot of shame related to these issues, but they're sick. They're sick diseases that people have related to why they are prone to have mental illness, why they're prone to have drug addiction, why they're prone to be alcoholic. Some people are just more predisposed to be that way. Some people can smoke a cigarette and put it down and never smoke again. Other people smoke a cigarette, they can't stop smoking. And it goes the same thing with drinking, with drugs, and related to mental health issues as well. So 75% of people in jail have a drug, alcohol, or mental health issue. And we spend a lot of money in our country trying to deal with drugs, alcohol, and mental health issues in the area of health and human services, which is often after it's become an emergency, and we need to treat the problem or deal with the crisis that has resulted from the problem. And my big thing that I'm focused on is that we don't spend enough of our resources, our existing resources, because nobody wants to spend more resources. We have to figure out how to use our existing resources more effectively and drive it towards preventing problems in the first place, which I think needs to be dealt with in the area of education at early ages and dealing with children at early ages before they start to grow, and that's related to drugs, alcohol, mental health. And the biggest problem we have in large organizations, whether they be giant corporations, but certainly government. I mean, think about it. National County, $2.8 billion is bigger than most Fortune 500 companies. New York State is as big as any Fortune 500 company. And the U.S. government is gigantic compared to any large company in America. So there's these huge, sprawling behemoths of government. And any large organization, it's often that they're not interoperable. So what do I mean by the word interoperable? It means that people who work in this department over here don't necessarily talk to the people who work in that department over there. They're in silos, and they don't cross-communicate with each other. So you have one world over here, law enforcement, 75% of people in jail have a drug, alcohol, or mental health problem. You got another completely separate, and then within that world, there's all different pieces to it. There's police, there's judges, there's jails, there's district attorneys, there's probation, there's parole, there's federal, there's state, there's local, and they don't necessarily talk well to each other all the time, but it's certainly a distinct culture and a different culture from another world over here of health and human services. We have social services and health and mental health and veterans and seniors and youth and physically challenged and drug and alcohol issues. And they don't talk that well to each other. We work on it in the counties trying to do a thing called No Wrong Door, which I'm not going to talk about in length tonight, but trying to get these agencies to work with each other. If somebody's showing up for a welfare transfer payment, or if somebody's showing up for a Medicaid application, is there a veteran involved? Is there a drug and alcohol issue involved? Is there a mental health issue involved? Is there something that's contributing to the emergency that the person is facing in their life right now? That we're only dealing with the emergency, we need to deal with the symptom by trying to get the services that do exist already to try and help that person. But then there's a third separate world, especially here in suburbia, unlike New York City, where you have got one government that does everything. In suburbia, you have a whole separate world. Law enforcement here, health and human services over here. Then over here, you've got education. Completely separate governments out here in suburbia. And if you look at the test scores of children in third grade in the wealthiest, low-risk school district, and you look at the test scores in the highest risk school district, low income, in third grade, they're not that far apart from each other. But by 8th grade, the kids in the high-risk school district, they've fallen off the face of the earth. And the kids in the low-risk school district, the high-wealth school district, are doing much better. So something happened during that time period from early ages up until 8th grade, and then certainly into high school. And then it's in high school, you start to see the problems emerge, and then getting involved in social services, and ultimately the criminal justice system. So I think it's very important that we're interoperable. We figure out how to bring our services back down to the education level to these kids from 3rd to 8th grade. So that's my big thing that I want to try and change the world on someday. So that's a very big issue that I think we need to be focused on. Because everybody says it's better to educate a child instead of paying for a jail cell later on. Everybody claps for it, says that's a great idea, I agree with you, but why doesn't it happen? It's because these big sprawling bureaucracies and any large organization, they're not interoperable with each other. So what I mean by interoperable, it's like when the World Trade Center towers went down, what happened? The police showed up, great police department, great fire department, great EMS department, but their radios were not interoperable. They couldn't talk to each other on the radio. And a lot of people died that day because they couldn't communicate with each other. And when you look behind it, you saw that before that event, the FBI was not talking to the CIA, was not talking to the Immigration and Naturalization Services, was not talking to the Federal Aviation Administration. They were not interoperable. They weren't communicating with each other. That's why they created the Department of Homeland Security, trying to get them to communicate better with each other. So it's hard to get things to communicate better with each other, but that's a big challenge, I believe, is how to get our health and human service agencies, and even law enforcement to a degree, to work together with our schools so that when kids start to manifest problems at early ages, they don't show up for class, they're getting in fights, their grades are dropping, they're not dressed properly, whatever, something starts to happen with this bright, happy kid who is painting and coloring and doing everything like all the other kids, is all of a sudden not doing that well. Something started to emerge, and we need to figure out how to take those resources and get them to help those kids at that age before they blow up and become much bigger problems related to drugs, alcohol, and mental health later on, and ultimately a big part of our law enforcement problem that we face as well. A lot of people incarcerated in our country have drug, alcohol, and mental health problems, a huge preponderance of people. So that's the big picture that I've always focused on. More immediately right now is a crisis going on here in Nassau County and Suffolk County and New York City and throughout the country, is this explosion of the use of heroin and opioids and people dying because of it. And there's a bunch of different things that happen at the same time. The first thing is the natural proclivity some people have to experiment, and it's not, you can't really experiment with drugs today, because once you do it, you get addicted. It's so potent, and we're going to hear the experts talk more about that. But one is the predisposition that certain people have to use drugs and alcohol in the first place. That's one thing that has always existed. The second thing is there became this availability over the past decade, 15 years, of opioids, of people getting prescribed Oxycontin and Vicodin and other painkillers, that it was so, it used to be, you had to be very careful about how you prescribe these things, and all of a sudden they changed the rules not long ago, and people started taking a lot more of this stuff. How many of us in here have been to the doctor that gave us a huge prescription for 60 days of taking some powerful drug? It's like, I'm never going to take all of it. Well, some people do take it, it stays in the medicine cabinet, and the kids get it, and other kids, and that's how a lot of people get introduced to this in the first place and get addicted, is through prescription painkillers. So that's a new phenomenon that has contributed to this perfect storm. We're starting to see a decline in that over-availability of those drugs because of some laws that have been passed over the past couple of years. But a lot of people have gotten addicted because of it. And at the same time that that's happening, there's this new availability of heroin that is inexpensive, that's easy to get, that's purer than ever, and it's a better high and cheaper than the prescription drugs. And it's available now because of market forces. Everybody's using it because they want it. It's available because people are making more money out of it than selling marijuana in the old days, because they're making marijuana legal in certain places. So that's cheaper, there's not as much profit for it anymore. And it's available because they're growing it more in Mexico and in Central America, and it's getting in here easier than it was before. These guys are smarter than the other stuff. We'll talk about it a little bit. So this perfect storm of some people's natural propensity, the availability of opioids and Oxycontin and opioid drugs, and people getting addicted to it. And then third, at the same time, there's this new availability of heroin like never before that's very potent and dangerous and inexpensive. And as a result, we're seeing people die all over the place. I have friends of mine whose kids, are dead because of drugs, like in the past couple months. And I, as a politician, only because you see so many people, so many different circumstances, I can't tell you how many personal stories I know of people who their kids are dead because of this. It's happening. I mean, I don't know about you, but I hear about it all the time now. And it's happening throughout our culture. So with that, when talking about these issues, we need to think about the big picture, the structural, what do we need to do to address these issues, and dealing with the idea of prevention and kids at young ages. And then we have to deal with the second part of the emergency that we're facing right now, related to people getting addicted to heroin and other opioids, dying because of it, not getting access to proper treatment because of insurance questions and very complicated insurance issues, and getting short-term treatment but not long-term treatment, and you can't get off this stuff unless it's a long-term treatment, and a whole change in the way that your mind works. So we've got the big picture, and we've got the short-term crisis that we're facing right now. And then with that, I'm going to ask the experts to start talking about it. So I think we're going to ask PJ to go first, the former deputy detective, chief of detectives of Nassau County Police, who dealt with the issues of narcotics and what we see going on and what he can tell us. Okay, so PJ, thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello. Hi. I'm Paul Clark, everybody calls me PJ. I retired after 27 years with the Nassau County Police Department. And just briefly, I started off as a patrol cop, worked my way through the ranks, and ultimately retired as deputy chief of detectives 4 years ago. And part of my responsibilities was to oversee narcotics investigations. And I'm going to be using the word heroin, I guess, mostly, but it doesn't just pertain to heroin. It pertains to this whole family of drugs called opioids. So when you hear about Oxycontin, oxycodone, hydrocodone, Valvine, Dovasane, it's all has the same effect on the body. And everyone uses the street term heroin. You hear Vicks, Vicodins, are very popular also. So how does this happen? How did we get here? We've had 56 fatal overdoses so far in Nassau County this year, and we've had 227 non-fatal overdoses so far this year, right here in Nassau County. And as the experts in pharmacology and psychology and treatment of these people will tell you, the answer is not just arresting everybody. You can't arrest the kids who have the drugs. You can arrest the drug dealers, and drug dealers aren't like they used to be. Usually when you talk about a distribution of controlled substances, you would picture a pyramid structure with one guy, maybe in Colombia, maybe in New York City, who brought the drugs in, and then would work his way down to lower and lower, just like any organization, to a lower level. It's not so much like that anymore. It does come in large quantities. Something on the news tonight, trucks coming straight across the border from Mexico, and full, tractor trailers filled with heroin. And what happens is, if a kid today wants heroin, he doesn't go to a dealer necessarily. He goes to his buddy. Because the buddies, everyone's a dealer. They go, they shoot to the city, they buy drugs for themselves, and they buy drugs for their friends. So, the standard law enforcement model provides that we arrest a kid on the street, either because he's doing something else and he happens to have a drug on him, and then you work your way up the food chain, so to speak. And we still do that a lot, but it goes across all lines, these distributors of these controlled substances. What communities does it?
Why did it change? You're saying that it classically was a pyramid,
Right.
like market corporation.
And
now, you're saying now, or the last 5 years, it's not identifiable, it doesn't follow one pattern.
Well, in the past, that component still holds true. However, the distribution has become decentralized, just like many other things. So when you want to buy something, you're not going to send it over to the store, you go to Amazon, and you don't know what's selling you're going to get. So, it's just, that's the way kids operate today. So, it's important to note that historically, when we talked about drugs and drug users, we were talking about bad kids. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, I went to Long Beach High School, and the kids that were doing drugs were the bad kids. They were burglars, they were burnouts, they were class, they were troublemakers. And now, no family is immune. So many good kids are getting hooked on these things. And we'll talk a little bit more about that throughout the night. But they're not the quote-unquote bad kids that you remember from when you were, a teenager. But they find themselves falling into it. Who falls into it? It's not the bad neighborhoods anymore, whatever that is, the high crime areas. It's everywhere. Leading area for heroin in Nassau County, Massapequa. Massapequa Park, North Massapequa. Then in this area, Hicksville, Levittown, East Meadow, there's a large component of it as well. But you'll find it on the North Shore, you'll find it in every community. It is not restricted to any demographic. Any kid could fall into it. How does that happen? Many times, it starts with kids poking through their parents' medicine chest. And that's why the police department, district attorney's office, a lot of the elected officials have programs where they call it shed the meds or drop off the drugs. And it's important, if you're prescribed a painkiller and you have children in the house, that you get rid of those medications as soon as you finish with them. Because kids will take it out of your prescription bottles and just try it, see what it's like. Many times, they think it's safe. They say, well, it's from the government,